What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego back with some more boxing. Now, some people were leaving comments, hitting my inbox, asking me my thoughts on Carl Froch versus George Groves. And I didn't, as you guys noticed on my channel, I didn't have any post fight videos or anything. That was simply because I hadn't watched the fight. I've been real busy trying to handle some other stuff. A couple other videos trumped this video. And I just hadn't made the time to watch the fight. I actually just watched it right now from start to finish, and I want to give you my post fight. I know it's late. I know the dust has settled, but just want to give you the ego thoughts, the ego take on what I seen in there. Now, first of all, you got to give George Groves props. He's the younger fighter, less seasoned than Carl Froch, and he went in there and impressed. And he, like he says at the end in the post fight interview, he was in a audience, or he was fighting in front of an audience that was pro Carl Froch, but by the end of the fight, they were cheering for George Groves, and when Carl Froch was speaking, they were booing him because what they witnessed. So he gained some fans, which is good for him. I would definitely love to see a rematch. Um, Honestly, it was a competitive fight. It was a good fight. I thought George Groves was pretty dominant. There were a couple shaky rounds. I think the shaky rounds stem from George Groves being young, less trained, because he kind of broke away from his discipline, kind of broke away from his game plan, the things that were working in the first couple of rounds. Round 5 was a closer round. I would give it to Carl Froch slightly. It wasn't a shutout round for Carl Froch, but he looked better, and he landed some significant stuff in the 5th round. The first round was looking like an upset. You had a very composed, calm George Groves. He was boxing. And then towards the end of the round, he knocked Carl Froch down. And Carl Froch was shaken up. And this is a guy with a granite chin. So just a well-placed shot and a succession of punches that knocked Carl Froch down. So that was definitely impressive to me in round 1. It was a little bit too late. So the end of the round, the bell rung. And George Groves wasn't able to attempt to try to finish him off. And it seemed like Carl Froch was saved by the bell. In the later second, third, fourth round, really much of the same. Very cool, calm, and collected George Groves, picking his shots, using precision, accuracy, timing. And I don't know if he had a magnet in his right hand, in his right glove. And Carl Froch was face is made of metal, but he was surgically destroying early on Carl Froch with that right hand. Like, it was landing at will. Like, I forgot which round it was, but one of the rounds, it looked like he couldn't miss with the right. He landed right after right after right after right after right. Early on in this fight, I was actually impressed with George Groves because that's not the Carl Froch that I'm used to seeing. If you watch Carl Froch's last performance against Mikhail Kessler, the rematch, Carl Froch was far more aggressive. He looked a lot more confident. He was bringing it to Mikhail Kessler, and he looked fearless. But in this fight, based on timing and perhaps some of the hand speed of George Groves and just the accuracy, Carl Froch looked really apprehensive to unload and get off and really stop. In fact, he was backpedaling a little bit. There was some times where he initiated the clinch. And I'm pretty sure that Carl Froch was getting frustrated and he knew he was behind because every opportunity that he had, George Groves, like in close quarters where he could really pin him down, he really tried some veteran tactics, tried to rough him up. In one of the later rounds, maybe round 6, he had George Groves against the ropes and he was using his forearm to push up on him and just rough him up, really, trying to get those additional shots in and wear him down. And like I said, I was impressed with George Groves. That's all I can say. Carl Froch is the seasoned veteran. He looked like he had less confidence. Carl Froch had the better measurements. He was taller. He had the longer reach. And George Groves fought a really patient and precise fight early on. I think he got a little bit away from the game plan later on, trying to be macho or trying to really embarrass Carl Froch or whatever. Yeah, it just overall, I was impressed more so with George Groves' overall performance because it was almost like Freaky Friday. The things that Carl Froch, given who he is, should have excelled at, I felt George Groves was excelling at. Carl Froch being the taller fighter, the fighter with the longer reach, but George Groves was using the better, stiffer jab. Carl Froch was throwing a jab like a pity jab where he didn't really commit to it, probably because the decent punching power or the timing of George Groves. In terms of ring generalship and composure, it looked like George Groves early on was the more composed fighter. So just a great performance, a breakout performance from George Groves. Carl Froch did good in spots, but a lot of it I think stems from George Groves just being young, inexperienced, and trying to put on a show, maybe really embarrass Carl Froch to the point where he got a little bit sloppy and a little bit reckless. As far as the stoppage, that was some bullshit. I don't think the fight should have been stopped. If that was the case, then Carl Froch should have had the fight stopped on him in round one because he looked visibly hurt and got knocked down as well. So for the ref to stop it in the ninth round on George Groves, who was pretty much winning majority of the rounds, to the point where even the announcers were saying Carl Froch, the only way he can win this particular fight is via knockout. I thought that was some bullshit. Like, I'm all for protecting the fighter's health. I've seen great stoppages and I've seen bad stoppages. And of course, this one's controversial. In a championship title fight, you got to give the man the benefit of the doubt. And I don't think he was taking so much punishment to the point where he was out of it. And again, you gave Carl Froch that same opportunity to recover. Yet George Groves, the moment he's in danger, it's like, oh, we're stopped, waving it off. So I thought that was some bullshit. I definitely want to see a rematch. And George Groves knows what he can build off of and do better. And he knows what he can do that he already did. As far as Carl Froch, I give the man credit for having a tough schedule, just being an active super middleweight, and he's tough as nails. I mean, this guy got hurt in the first round drastically. I mean, I don't know if his legs were there, and to go on an additional 8 rounds and grit and bear it, that's impressive to me. As far as Carl Froch, I still see him losing to Andre Ward. I know he wants Andre Ward. I just think fighters that are fundamentally, technically sound, accurate, they're going to give him problems. He needs a guy to fight more or less his fight to at an elite level, I guess you could say, to really stand out. Like Mikhail Kessler was fighting similar to how he was fighting, making an all-out dog fight, and that benefits him. But if someone's going to be patient, time him, catch him, capitalize off mistakes, he's going to have problems. And I think that's exactly what Andre Ward would do, except Andre Ward just had the shoulder rehab. He looked good against Edwin Rodriguez, another big fighter, and he dominated that fight. So I just think Andre Ward will beat him again in a rematch just because of the accuracy. He has the healed shoulder. He has the precision, and that's really what it is. Carl Froch, true warrior, though. I definitely want to see George Groves and Carl Froch mix it up again in a rematch. I think they have some unfinished business because the stoppage wasn't warranted. Let me know what you guys thought of the fight. Who do you want to see Carl Froch fight? Is it Chavez Jr., Andre Ward rematch, George Groves rematch? What do you guys think of Groves? Leave a comment. Let me know what you guys think. As always, hate, comment, or subscribe. Till next video, it's Ego signing off.